Okay, I've got a question. What do the Summer of Brooke, rosemary bread, and glove compartment candy have in common?
Well, somehow, believe it or not, they are all key plot points in 2020's Wedding Every Weekend. We've got a lot to talk about, Josh.
We do, Jennifer. We'll unwrap it all on this episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
If you like holiday movies from the classics to newbies, let's sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh. Sit down and watch, then have a talk with Jennifer and Josh.
I'm told it's actually wedding season, Jennifer, but
That's right.
some of our listeners might say that wedding season is finally upon us.
Here we are. It's June. Yeah, season is spelled S-Z-N. It's what the kids say, according to TikTok, because we have a TikTok that we don't really post on. But I do find myself winding down after a day scrolling TikTok. So it's season.
Season. Here we are.
We've got a good one to discuss on this episode. But first, do us a favor, help us grow our podcast. Like, subscribe, write a review, tell a friend, tell somebody on the subway. Wherever you're listening now, grab the nearest, well, don't grab them, but say, hey, you, over there. Check out this podcast. Don't grab them, though. That's weird. Don't do that. You can find everything you need to know about our podcast and more at doyouwatchwhatiwatch.com.
We will get to the plot summary for this episode's flick in just a moment, but first we have some breaking news from News. All right, Jennifer, here we go. The interwebs are saying we are going to get 2 brand new holiday movies for Hallmark's Christmas in July in just a few short weeks. The first is called A Royal Christmas Crush, and the second has a working title of The Christmas Reboot. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
I mean, it is just like I'm ready for some peppermint. I'm an addict for it. So I was afraid, as we talked about previously, that we wouldn't get any. I did a poll on our Instagram stories, and most people thought we would get 4 new movies, which I thought was ambitious. I think we only got 3 new ones last July, and that was before writer's strike. So I figured we'd get 1. To get 2, I'm pleased. A Royal Christmas Crush. Listen, I'm admittedly not a big fan of the royal movies. Yeah, so I'm not like super excited yet. But hey, what is it? It's like we'll take anything in a mirage. There's like a saying like we'll take it.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, but like a mirage in a desert, and I'm thirsty,
okay.
so I'll take like that kind of thing. I'll take anything they give us at this point for some new Christmas content.
As the deer panteth for the water, so our podcast longeth for new movies.
Thank you. Something like that. See, that's why we work well together.
Dream team.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Yes, it's getting hot. It feels like summer. But you know what? I'm ready for something that feels like Christmas and something brand new from Hallmark, and looking forward to reviewing those in July. But we've got a couple of good movies picked out to talk about for June. So here is the plot summary for Wedding Every Weekend. This, of course, direct from IMDb. Nate and Brooke are going to the same 4 weddings 4 weekends in a row. To avoid setups, they decide to go together as quote-unquote wedding buddies, but what starts as a friendship soon deepens.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. So I was drawn to this movie because it stars Kimberley Sustad, our queen, one of our Hallmark queens, and Paul Campbell. He's a king as well. Meant to be together here. Love seeing them together. Love seeing their banter. They've also written movies together. So I was very intrigued by this. What say you?
You can tell they enjoy one another as people, you know, and as actors and as professionals in this space. And there is just this instant chemistry with the two of them. Their banter really speaks to their relationship throughout this whole movie. So I just bought it from go with the two of them.
Well, let's get into it. So we open on the ugliest teal text title screen, but we hear the Pete Townsend song, Let My Love Open the Door. And I thought, okay, Hallmark spent some money on this, although I don't think it was his version. I think it was a cover, but still, they had to pay somebody for that. So to me, it was a net positive opening sequence. It's wedding season in Portland, Oregon, and our queen, Kimberley Sustad, is our leading lady, Brooke. She's helping her friend scan kitchen items for the friend's registry because the groom already registered at the hardware store. And I put gender stereotypes much? Like, do men not care about the women's stuff in the kitchen?
Apparently not in the world of Hallmark. I mean, I remember bopping around Target with that little gun at towels and everything, that was part of the process. Yes.
It's fun. Yeah. So Brooke bumps into Nate, who's Paul Campbell, and they gab over espresso machines. And it's clear that Nate has some relationship baggage, and it's not the last we will see of him.
Mm-hmm.
Brooke is a physical therapist, and her patient is trying to set her up with her nephew, but Brooke has a boyfriend, Dr. Colin, who works at the same PT practice. No one seems to deem him a worthy suitor, but it's never really explained why. Then we cut to Nate. He's a mechanic specializing in classic cars, wearing the skinniest skinny jeans I have ever seen on a mechanic. There's not good ventilation going on there.
No.
He slips on oil in the pit. Is that what that's called? Like,
I think so.
Oil change, the lower level floor.
There's like a dip in the floor. Yeah.
The pit.
The pit.
And he ends up with a probable ACL sprain. So where does he go? None other than Brooke's office for PT. They banter about espresso machines and classic cars, and she tells him he'll need to come 2 times a week for 6 to 8 weeks, that he grumbles that he doesn't have that much time because he's busy, and he'll just buy a brace and look up exercises online and limps away. Ironically, I recently injured my knee. Not to this extent, but I did just go to Walgreens and buy a brace, and then I asked our friend for some exercises I could do until it healed.
Maybe you need to consider taping that knee, because we get the full scientific history and medical benefits of taping. I had no idea it was as elaborate as it is, but boy, howdy.
I figured I was glad somebody had researched it, but I just never questioned really what it did, but it was fascinating.
They really gave you the backstory on taping. So go figure.
Yeah. There you go. Fun and educational, this movie. So Dr. Colin has a great idea after Nate leaves and talks to Brooke and says, hey, date night this week, changing it up. Different pizza place. And I wrote Rebel.
Seriously. He wants gluten-free pizza for their date night, and that causes me to immediately dislike him.
Some people have allergies and sensitivities, Josh.
I'll give it to you. If that's your thing, yes. And I hear you if that's an allergy thing and you really are doing that whole thing. But I think he's just doing it for the sake of doing it because he says, let's try something new.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right.
Yeah.
So Brooke is painting in a field in front of a barn with with her best friend and some other upcoming brides. And Brooke asks questions of her bride friend like, how did you know that your groom was the one? Well, she said his name. I can't remember his name right now. Greg, maybe? The bride encourages her to take the summer off from dating. But she debates if she does that, then she won't have a date to all these weddings. And should she wait until after the wedding season to break up with Dr. Colin, ... Then we cut to at Dr. Colin date night with pizza on the table. She tells him that they should break up. I do appreciate that they didn't villainize Dr. Colin. I guess he just wasn't the right fit. Like, he wasn't a bad guy or cheating on her or anything atrocious like that.
I appreciate that, too. They just sort of made it doofy and quite obvious that the two of them were not going to work out. So I support that.
Yes. We go back to the shop of Paul Campbell, and I wrote, how tall is Paul Campbell? He looked gigantic. And so I looked it up. He's only 6'2", which isn't short by any means, but maybe the other actor was small or it was an angle thing. He looked gigantic.
I thought the same thing. If he's 6'2", that means Kimberley Sustad is really quite tall as well.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So maybe his partner in the shop was a little shorter, or maybe, I don't know.
Could be.
I shouldn't say that, but it was weird. The angles were weird. So he romanticizes his car business that he inherited from his dad. And then we get a wedding invite montage. What do you know? Nate and Brooke are all going to the same weddings. They each know one half of each couple for all 4 weddings. Brooke didn't anticipate work being awkward now that she broke up with pineapple and ham pizza loving Dr. Colin. You didn't think of that, Brooke? Because that's the exact first thing I thought of. This could get awkward. Not that you shouldn't do it, but you got to weigh it as a consideration.
For sure. I mean, If you're going to walk away from a relationship with someone, and apparently they work very closely together because the early scenes we get, they're both there at the same time. We get the sense it's a small
Right.
practice, the whole 9 yards. So it's sort of like, this was obviously going to go south. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Her friend encourages her to open up her own PT clinic, and I said, that seems expensive. The best friend's groom offers to set up Nate with Brooke, and he says no, but he didn't know it was Brooke. So they're all trying to like kind of work behind the scenes to be matchmakers. Brooke tells her parents that she's going to have the Summer of Brooke, whatever that means. No dating, just time for me. And then Dr. Collins shows up and offers to still be her date to a wedding, and she says no, thank you. That was weird.
Very weird. I mean, get a clue, Colin. It's over.
Yeah. It's not going to happen.
No.
All right, we have our first wedding, and it's Colin and Gretchen. That can't be right.
Doesn't really matter.
Okay. The wedding planner moves. What's her name? Brooke.
Oh, boy.
The wedding planner moves Brooke to a different table so that a new couple can take her seat since she no longer needs a +1. And what do you know? Nate is at that same table. And they're like, what are you doing here? So he shows her how he taped up his knee on his own, and it's real bad and actually funny. And then an eager single wedding guest comes on to Brooke, and Nate rescues her. She says that being alone is kind of her jam right now, so she goes and takes a walk around the grounds. Nate finds her, and they talk about their bad relationships of the past and how they're not looking for a relationship. Then he walks her back so she doesn't get mauled by a bear. True story. We see the eager guest hitting on another girl in the background, which made me laugh. I kind of wanted that guy who was hitting on her to show up at every wedding, like just subtly in the background, just trying to get a girl.
Well, and
because he was too much.
His whole shtick about bread was the thing that just was so crazy funny about him, because he asks her what her favorite kind of bread is when the waiter brings the bread basket, which is the world's worst pickup line. Okay.
Yeah.
So Brooke says she likes rosemary. And so he stands up and he's garçon, snapping his finger, trying to get rosemary bread to really impress her.
The baguettes, hurry up.
Right. It was bad. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was cringy. Anywho, all right, we're up to the second wedding, and what do you know? Nate and Brooke are together again. Nate's new shirt had the shoplifting tag on it, and he tried to take it off himself, which explodes dye like everywhere. So he showed up with dye on his hands. He showed up late, and they flirtily banter. Nate deems himself her wedding buddy. And then we hear an upbeat song with lyrics, "You Make Me Feel Good," play while they have an hors d'oeuvre montage.
I classified this song, Jennifer, as a Bobo Natasha Bedingfield song.
Yeah. Definitely. They spent all their money on the opening credits,
Right,
and the rest
exactly.
are like, ugh. They're like
We
making
got
their
nothing.
own music as they go. Love, feel good, yay.
Which makes me wonder.
AI could do that, I guess.
That's what I was going to say. It's just a matter of time before we get AI songs in these Hallmark movies, and they're going to be as bad as that Christmas one we heard a few episodes.
Oh my gosh. You guys, if you did not listen to the Merry Christmas episode, you should. But don't watch the movie.
Don't watch
Never
the
watch
movie.
the movie.
No.
Unless
Listen to
you're
our
one
podcast.
listener who, God love her, she loves that movie, and I think she still listens to us in spite of our review of it.
Hi.
Hi, sorry. Do you have a preferred wedding hors d'oeuvre that really like perks you up when you're at a wedding?
Absolutely. I love a little puff pastry cup with some things in it. That's
It's just things. What is
just thing. I'm not picky about the thing. Just give me a puff pastry cup. You know. What about you?
Mm-hmm. See, I asked you the question. I didn't really think of it myself. I enjoy a dip. Like, I feel like it takes longer to eat it. It gives you something to do, and you can hold it, like a spinach dip or something, while you're awkwardly talking to people if you don't know that many people at the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So
A bruschetta is also nice. I love a bruschetta. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, now I'm hungry. So a guy is oogling Brooke, different guy, and he approaches her to dance, but wedding buddy Nate swoops in again and saves her. They figure out that they'll be at all the other weddings together, and they decide they can meet up and shop together for one of the weddings. They go to Bureau, where they first met, to buy a wedding gift, which is kind of like upscale Bed Bath & Beyond. R.I.P. Bed Bath & Beyond. We'll miss you.
And your
Gone
coupons.
too soon. in your coupons. They decide to go in on lowball glasses together. Next scene. This is one comment on this movie. I feel like we jump scenes a lot.
There's a lot of jumping around. Yes.
I don't know why. Anyways, okay. So Brooke tells Dr. Collins she's going to open her own clinic and immediately regrets it. She kind of did it as this, like, well, we shouldn't probably work together forever. Oh, it's fine because I'm just going to open my own clinic. And then she's like, why did I say that?
Mm-hmm.
So she goes on a walk with the bride-to-be bestie and talks to Nate on the phone. And then bride-to-be bestie's like, oh, you're talking to Nate. I knew it was kismet. You guys are meant to be together. She's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're just friends. We're just wedding buddies. And they all four decide they're going to go to this next wedding together until the bride-to-be and her groom back out and get quote-unquote sick at the last minute, putting Nate and Brooke together. But they were already going to go together anyway, so it was kind of like one of those stuck under the mistletoe bits.
Yeah.
But it didn't really pay off
Yeah.
to me. But here we are. Okay, so Nate picks her up with a restored car that he's kind of been fixing up, and he was taking out a test drive, and it starts smoking in the driveway. Her car is at the shop, not his shop, and so how are they going to get to the wedding? It'll take forever. I don't want to miss the wedding. They fire up her dad's old clunker car in the garage that she had mentioned. I don't remember what kind it was, but she told him earlier in the movie, just in like a throwaway line, oh, I have my dad's yada yada. And Nate was like, oh, that's kind of a piece of junk. Well, now it looks really enticing to him because they need it to get to the wedding. They pull up to the wedding and someone's interested in buying the car because it's ironic, he said, nowadays, to have an ironic classic car.
I guess in Portland, that's what you do. The thing that bothered me
True.
with them getting to the wedding, I don't know if it caught your eye, but we are getting a very clear green screen
Yeah.
driving through the country kind of moment, and they are giddy and laughing and make flirty eye contact, but I could not get past just how green screeny this driving in the country scene looked to me. Did you see?
I did notice that. Yes. The background bothered me less than the lighting with it. Like the artificial sun lighting they were doing didn't really seem to match up with
Yeah,
the green screen background, but whatever.
something's got to give. I know.
Got a grade on a curve. Okay, so the third wedding starts, and it has the ladies that we met earlier in the field painting event. They were placed, Nate and Brooke were placed at separate tables, and an orthopedic surgeon immediately starts flirting with Brooke. I guess she just gets hit on everywhere she goes.
Well, to be
Or are people
fair,
at weddings this desperate?
Well, to be fair, she does look like $1 million walking around these weddings.
yeah.
Her outfits throughout look great, and she always looks really well put together. I mean, she's a catch, you know?
She is. I've never seen people outwardly flirt, I guess, at weddings with people they didn't know. But
Well-
maybe I just haven't paid attention.
And in the context of this movie, it's interesting because we never get the subplot about, them putting a woman with him,
Mm-hmm.
trying to do
No,
the
and I
opposite.
think of this one girl kind of looked at him and he just walked away. So that's as far as they went.
He's not exactly the warmest and fuzziest of characters.
No, he's not total curmudgeon, but he's borderline.
Yeah.
So they decide to walk the grounds together, which is the second time they've done this in this movie. And I've never walked the grounds at a wedding. I kinda
Never.
stay at the event.
Yeah.
I was
These-
thinking at your wedding, did I walk the grounds? No.
I mean, and all of these venues, of course, listener, have these just beautiful ponds and paths and benches that are just conveniently placed in the middle of the forest. I mean, it's that. Yeah.
Yes, very picturesque.
Mm.
So she demands that Nate come see her Thursday morning at her house before he goes to work for some PT. Her parents found an office space for her and want to invest in her PT practice, but she turns them down and wants to do it on her own. Then she goes at home, she's working on getting a loan, and what do you know, her roof starts leaking. She has a bucket under it. We're down to a bucket, and I thought that thing's going to cave in soon, which later it does.
Mhm.
She does Nate's PT and gets a call that the spa and golf course had storm damage that they were going to have the bachelor and bachelorette parties at that afternoon, presumably.
Apparently so.
And so they're like, hey, let's combine the events. We'll do a Jack and Jill day. And then he like just speaks to Siri or Bobo Siri. It's like, hey, bachelor, bachelorette events in Portland. And they go to a field and play flag football. And it's the sunniest, driest grass that I've ever seen in my life. A storm literally took out the golf course nearby, but they're all good now at a field.
Yeah. And apparently
Yeah.
they were able to throw together this huge Jack and Jill party because there's tables and tents and food and snacks and everything is happening so quickly. So they work miracles, apparently, these two together.
And they must have worked well together, but we didn't get to see any of that, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. That would have been a good montage.
Love a montage. Well, they play flag football until Nate messes up his knee again. And then they decide, while she's bandaging him up, let's mess with the friends. And they longingly look at one another in the most tender moment. And he brushes the hair away from her face. But they were just kidding with everybody. Gotcha. Ha Things are heating up. She gets home. Her roof damage has gotten worse. We have drywall falling in. And she has to use the money she was going to use on the loan to open her practice on the roof. Nate decides to step in, and turns out when the guy complimented the car at wedding number 2, I guess, he had slipped him his business card and said, hey, if you ever want to sell the car, let me know. So Nate texts this guy who loved the dad's car, and the guy is interested in buying it. So Nate offered to fix up the car for her so she can sell it if she'll help with his knee. She sells the car to the guy from the wedding for $11,000. That seemed kind of low.
I thought so too. But she did negotiate him up because she's a pretty savvy businesswoman. Her dad was an attorney and taught her never to take the first offer. So she does good for herself. Yeah.
Our queen knows what she's doing. We're at the rehearsal dinner for the main couple, Greg and
Ginny.
Melinda. Ginny.
Again, B characters. Really didn't matter.
And we see the most awkward toast where it turns out the bride is upset because the groom jokes off that he didn't have to do any of the work for this wedding. She storms off and she tells him how she feels. And then Brooke says, then she tells Brooke, I completely lost it on Greg. What is wrong with me? And I thought, that wasn't really like completely losing it. It was pretty tame. You were just telling him how you feel, but okay. Brooks then has an oopsie doodle moment and overhears Nate saying, I wouldn't give up being single for anything. And she gets upset and walks away, but misses the rest of how Nate is saying how awesome that the bride and groom's relationship is, how he envies that. And so then Brooke and Nate get into a tiff and things are icy at the big wedding of their 2 best friends. And they say goodbye. The end. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so what did you think about this oopsie doodle moment?
You know, it was kind of weak sauce. I thought legitimately it was one of those where it's kind of this trope where one part of the couple hears just a fraction of what's being said and jumps to a conclusion and storms off, as opposed to actually asking for clarification. Again, as we have often said, if people would just communicate, we could avoid...
In life and in the movies.
Exactly. We could avoid all of the stress of these Hallmark movies if people would just communicate about the things that they think they hear. You know what? Stop hearing what's not being said.
Oh, deep. It's very deep. And it was kind of a bummer because I really wanted to see them together at the wedding, like flirting and dancing and things.
And you know what?
Like, there was all this build up.
Yeah. And we get this moment where, for some reason, the venue is totally empty, like immediately after the wedding. And she misplaced her purse. She can't find it. He walks in, he's holding it. And I thought, oh, here we go. Here we go. We're going to get some clarity and it's going to be the moment. And it's not.
No. And then he walks out and then she's just standing there in this venue, beautiful and sad. Made me sad for her and for us. Okay, so Nate agrees that, the guy that bought the car only wanted it if it could be fixed up to be retrofitted with like working air conditioning and things like that. So Nate had always like put those kinds of jobs off because it was beneath him, I guess, but it's kind of money's tight. So he agrees to doing retrofits, and that's going to really open up his business and expand it, and he'll be rolling in the dough soon. Cut to 4 months later, Brooke opens up her PT office and Greg finds out what happened in the convo that she overheard, and she feels awful. She's going to apologize to him and make it right, but before she can do that, she's home, and who comes knocking on her door? Nate the Great. He shows up at her house, and turns out that he decided to keep her dad's car and traded that guy a different car, however that works. Like, we're not trading Hot Wheels and Pokemon cards, but what do I know? She tearfully apologizes and they kiss. And then we flash forward to their wedding and they drive away in the fixed up car that her dad had. And I had to laugh because I thought the same thing. On IMDb, you can submit questions. And a user submitted a question that I asked myself, why does Brooke/Kimberly toss her wedding bouquet to the back seat of the car as they're driving away instead of throwing it into the crowd? And I assume it's because literally all of their other friends are already married, so what's the point? But some user answered, because she felt like it.
Well, there you have it. If it's the queen's prerogative, who are we to argue with it?
I can't. Just toss it back. Okay, it's time for our gold or cold segment where we each give 3 gifts. If there's more gold, it takes the wedding cake. Takes the cake. Parentheses wedding. Thank you. If there's more coal, it's cake smashed in your face. Wah, wah. And if it's tie, it's just meh-ried.
Those are
I
great.
thank you.
Those
I'll
are
pat
great.
myself on the back. I'll thank you. I'll thank you. I'll thank you. Insert applause. Yeah. All right.
We're getting better. We're getting better with these. I
I
love
was Googling wedding puns, but it's all too
Oh,
lovey, so
I'm
I just
okay
had to
with
kind of go off the script. All right.
I'm going to give some
You
gold.
go first.
I think the chemistry between Kimberly and Paul as Brooke and Nate was great, and it evolved really well, I thought, early on. She didn't like him because he was kind of curmudgeon-y, and then he sort of gave a little bit, and she kind of gave a little bit, and it was sort of this interesting little, maybe you're not an awful person, and maybe you're actually someone worth spending some time with, and I thought that that was a sweet sort of evolution to their relationship throughout.
Absolutely. I will give some gold. The tidbit that she owned the old car was more of a throwaway line earlier in the movie, and I liked that it ended up being a pretty big storyline. I mean, they really kind of focused on how she used to ride in the car, and there was an old piece of candy in the glove compartment. She just never got rid of it. It was 30 years old, and she's like, I like knowing it's there. So that's kind of what triggered him to go back to her when he found the old nasty piece of candy in the glove compartment.
Mhm.
And I don't know, that just kind of, I thought was a sweet moment, and how the car kind of tied them together and brought them back.
I
was
agree.
Unexpected, and I liked it.
Yeah. I am also going to give gold. I thought Brooke's parents were really fun in this movie.
Mhm.
There was obviously some comedic relief, but they seemed very wise and very invested in their daughter. And I just thought, for being B characters and just kind of supporting folks, they actually brought something to it that I think added to the overall feel of the movie.
Absolutely. My next piece of gold, I like that they highlighted a wedding guest. It's a big deal to be a good wedding guest. You need to be engaging. You need to be fun. You need to dance when everybody's on the dance floor and get a good gift, etc., etc. And I thought it was fun to see weddings from that perspective, because usually it's just from the bride and groom's perspective. So it's fun to just kind of watch a couple that we don't really know go to different weddings.
Mm-hmm. I am going to give just a minor piece of coal here. I felt like there were at points just kind of a frantic, especially in the beginning, a frantic way of telling this story. Like, it was very jumpy, very from one place to the next character to the next character, and it was a little hard to track with. I think there was also a missed opportunity here. She sees this patient of hers twice who is saying, you should really meet my nephew. I think you should be with my nephew. And I kept thinking to myself, oh, she's Nate's aunt who just happens to live in...
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
I wish that they would have done that, and I think they could have easily done that at the wedding scene at the very end. She should have been in that scene, and it should have been a full circle moment with that woman. There was a missed opportunity.
Oh, that would have been good. Yeah, I didn't even go there. That would have been really good. See, you should write these movies.
Maybe someday.
My third piece of gold, I'm giving all gold on this one. Something you already said, so I'll try to think of a way to rephrase it. But the leads, I mean, come on. So much chemistry, romantic, so much chemistry. From a humor standpoint, they do feel grounded. It felt earned. I just really loved seeing them together. And I'm glad for once we got the flash forward to see their wedding, because I'm happy that they are happy. They deserve to be happy.
It was satisfying throughout. So, final score here, 5-1. Oh, it is like a beautiful June wedding. It is taking the wedding cake, and Satisfying throughout. Fun watch.
Yes, I'm glad. I'd already recorded it anyways because I wanted to watch it. And I don't know, it snuck past me whenever it was on originally. So this was the perfect opportunity to get to take it for a spin, as it were, like it's a classic car.
And that, friends, is another episode of Do You Watch What I Watch?
Special thanks to Nick Schwartz, as always, for our theme song. And of course, thank you for listening.
Hey, if you like our podcast, gosh, we really do appreciate you. Would you take the time to like, subscribe, and tell a friend about what we're doing here? You can find all the links to all of our social stuff at doyouwatchwhatiwatch.com. Hey, on our next episode, we're going to be chatting about a movie. You've got a couple weeks to watch it. Hallmark's 2019 Love and Sunshine. This one stars Danica McKellar and Mark Declan. And here's the synopsis from IMDb. A woman has been fostering a dog as she recovers from a broken heart. Oh
no.
Here we go. Here we go. Waterworks. As the owner returns to claim the dog, will sparks fly, or will it just lead to another broken heart? We're going to have much to discuss. And until then,
may your days be merry and bright. We'll see you next time.